So you're ready to make a Prezi? So here we go. Once you get to Prezi.com, we need to get started. Now, either way, you can click Login up here. If you happen to have a login and you've used a Prezi before, just type in whatever credentials you used. If not, you can click Sign Up here, and there are plenty of free versions that you can use. If you are creating an account for the first time, I would recommend using your school-issued Gmail. That way, it'll hopefully be a little bit easier for you to remember as you navigate back here in the future. If you have been here before, you'll see any Prezis that you've made in the past. Otherwise, we're going to click right here, Create New Prezi. Now, the goal of this Prezi, of course, is to pick an invertebrate and show how that invertebrate is meeting those characteristics of life that you've been working through on this lesson. Now, it's totally up to you on how you want to start. You could use a template that has already been created. A few of them show up right away. If you see this More button here, there's a ton of templates. So I would maybe suggest that you find one that is going to help you organize your thoughts on these characteristics of life. I found one in particular called Snowflake. And by no means do you have to use this one, but I kind of like how it's organized, where I can put my organism in the middle and use these other bubbles radiating around the outside as my characteristics of life. Be creative. Find something that's going to fit with you. You can even start a blank template and build everything by yourself. But you'll notice as I enter this template that the nice thing about using a template is a lot of the Prezi is already scaffolded for you. For example, if I just click Present right off the bat, you'll notice that there's already this built-in animation. So going from the middle, and then maybe that's characteristic 1 and characteristic 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, etc. And yeah, the little snowflakes in the background are cheesy, but that's not really too much of an issue here. Now, even if you use a template, you're going to have to do some modifying of the formatting in addition to adding your content, but I'll show you a couple steps along the way. One important thing that you're going to want to make sure that you include is you need to cite all your sources. So as you navigate the internet for pictures and information about your organism, keep track of those websites, those links, those sources, so that you can paste them in a box at the end of your Prezi. The way I decided to start is I outlined my Prezi on just a Google Doc. And so I just started it. I'm going to be using the blue sea dragon. You can see what this amazing little sea slug looks like right here. Pretty cool thing. And so as I went along and started to research these different characteristics of life, I'm just tracking the websites where I got the pictures from and also any information that I came across as well. That way, when the time comes, you easily have access to your pictures. You can cite the sources as well. As I was navigating, I often saved the pictures to my desktop, and I'll show you how we can insert those into a Prezi as well. It's all about organization, and things usually flow better from there. So going back to my Prezi, obviously we want to have a title. You can change the fonts. You can change the sizes up here. Maybe I'm going to call it the Blue Sea Slug, Blue Dragon, Sea Slug, and the characteristics of life. Obviously, make sure you're spelling things right. Take a little bit of time to keep track of those. You can move things around a little bit. There we go. Maybe it'd be nice to have that text centered. So all those fun things that you can play around with. That's my starting slide right there. So now if I click down, and you notice on the left-hand side, very similar formatting to what a Google Slides presentation would look like, or a PowerPoint as well. So it's kind of nice that if you've ever built any of those, you already have a head start on making a Prezi. So when I move on to the first slide in this order, this is where I personally would say, okay, the whole purpose of this Prezi is to revolve around my blue dragon sea slug. And so I want to start off by, well, I probably should say that, right? Blue dragon sea slug. And again, you can see you can adjust the text boxes and the sizes and the colors and the fonts and things like that. For now, I'm not gonna put anything in that text box right there. And by the way, anytime you want to just create a text box, if you just kind of double click on it, you can do that. The cool thing is if I click up here, I can insert almost anything I want into this Prezi. So I'm going to insert an image. Now, as I was searching the web and I came across this web page right here, I took a picture already of this blue sea dragon. And so if I click over here, you can see save image as. You can also do it from Google itself. If I go back to my blue dragon sea slug there, kind of a cool trick is to click a picture that you like, get a little bit bigger, and then a nice 2-finger click, save image as, and I just called it blue dragon, and I like to save things to my desktop personally. So back in my Prezi, I'm going to call image. I'm going to remember where I saved it, in my case, the desktop, and there's my blue dragon. I get a little preview of it, and click open. And it inserted it kind of small there, but of course I can change the sizings, and I can do it a couple different ways with those buttons or just by clicking and dragging. And let's see here, I'm gonna get rid of that. And let's make it a little bit bigger, I guess. You can also see that when I click on the picture, I get some other options for cropping, effects, if I want to delete it, etc. And as far as moving it around, I can just kind of click that hand button. Notice it even gives me some guides in the middle to help things line up. So there's my blue sea dragon. And now if I click the third slide, it's going to take me to the perimeter. So here's where I'm going to outline mine with some of those characteristics of life. For example, I'm just going to call it number 1, made of cells. Once again, I already found a nice picture on our good old friend Google. One thing I should note on Google, I'm just going to go back to cells here, is I strongly recommend that when you search, especially for images, that you go to Tools and then look for this option right here. It's the copyright. And I would recommend searching for images that are labeled with non-commercial reuse with modification. While it's going to limit your search a little bit, typically you'll still find a lot, and you can rest assured that those images are there for you to use and to share. However, you should still cite the sources at the end of any creation that you make. So once again, I already saved a picture of a cell that I liked. So I'm going to go back to my insert image, and there's my cell picture. We'll drag this guy in. Let's make him a little bit bigger here, maybe too big. Now, it's a little bit more than just telling us what those 8 characteristics, because the assignment says, how does that organism you chose, in my case, the sea slug, how does it accomplish this, or how does it satisfy this requirement of being made up of cells? So here's where I need to deviate a little bit from that pre-designed template, and I can add my own content in here as well. I can add my own formatting. So you can see the plus sign up here. If I clicked it right now, it's going to put a circle over off to the side. I want to show a difference between my main characteristics and just some information about them. So I'm going to do, let's do a bracket. So now you see a bracket, and if I click a plus sign, it brings it in there for me. And again, I can kind of adjust it where I want it. Sure, we'll line it up right there. I'll show you how to kind of get it into the rotation here in a minute. But you can see it also added a slide to the bottom of my presentation. So to start, I'm going to click and drag this thing up. I want it to show up after my cell picture. I click on it. Now I can insert any important things that I want. I'm just going to double click here and say, let's see here, blue dragons are eukaryotes, and therefore, let's see here, and therefore are made of cells, eukaryotic cells. Obviously, you should think about a little bit more about what you're doing here, but now we have our content in there, and now it's going to be a matter of making sure that our animation is correct. So now I want to make sure that this all flows correctly. So if I preview a little bit by clicking present here, I'm going to back it up kind of to where we started. Go back up to our top slide, kind of see it from the start. So we can see that we're going to start off in this middle here. And then we zoom in, we go to the cells, and then it kind of jumps over to that, but then it's going to jump way over to the next one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to edit the path. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And you can see that going from, let's go over here a little bit. So going from my cell, it's going to go to here, but it's going to jump from 4 all the way to 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this little plus sign and bring it over, and notice how it just highlighted my circle there. That's going to bring it from this slide to the information about it, back to this slide to kind of remind us where we are, and then it's going to progress to this. And you'll notice it kind of duplicated my slide right there, so now we see it before and after. So kind of a cool little trick. So now if I go back and click our present, we'll see that we zoom in. We're going to head to our cells. We're going to pop over to there. We're going to pop back to the cells. And then we go on to trait number 2, which maybe we say contains genetic information. One or two other things to maybe note. If I go back to here, I kind of would like these things to be connected. So I'm going to insert a line between the two. And so that way you can kind of tell what's happening there. And of course, you could make several of these bracket frames with more information. You could put hyperlinks. You could put additional pictures. You could pull in some web pages. The options are really endless. Now at the end, I'm going to go to our final characteristic. That maybe be characteristic number 8. I am going to add a rectangle this time, kind of off to the bottom here. And I made it a little bit different because I want this to be our references. And so here's where I'd go through and I'd go back to this slide. And that way I can show where some of my resources came from. So for example, I would say Blue Dragon, and then I could do the pasting of the link. And of course, you can make things a whole lot smaller so that it will actually fit into the grand scheme of your design. And you can play around with those features as well and kind of help to make sure it all fits nice and neat onto this particular slide. And then of course, that will show up at the end here if we kind of present. So this would be trait number 8, and then nicely it will zoom into our references at the end of the presentation. So when you're all done, you've got everything edited and in place, and you're showing your characteristics of life, you can play around with some of the options up here. You can decide the best way to view it, and you can download it as a PDF and things like that. You can share your Prezi. Most likely you'll have to share the Prezi, and while you can't embed a Prezi on that Google Doc, What is Life, you could copy the link. Just make sure that I have permission to actually view it. So double check those settings. So I hope that this helped. If you have questions along the way, don't hesitate to ask me or one of your classmates, and good luck as you get creative.